Shalom, Shanti, Shanti, Shalom, peace. Hey everybody, it's Immanuel once again, back to you, bring you another episode of the Sex Magic Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the identity trap. What is the identity trap? Simply, people, the identity trap is the belief that you should be someone other than you, other than yourself. And it's also that you expect, when you begin to expect that everybody shares the same worldview as you, tendencies, attitudes, belief structures, all this stuff as you do, you fall into the identity trap. This is one of the most critical and foundational traps that we have to be mindful of as we approach sacred sexuality and sex magic. This trap alone has the capability and ability to tamper and taint the most pure relationships, pure friendships, and it really can disturb our peace, our alignment, our flow, and us living in our highest self. So let's talk about the first part first, right? Believing in that you should be someone other than yourself, that you should renounce things that come natural to you, that are just part of your DNA, because of surrounding belief structures, because of socialization, because people told you that you should be this way or that way. Now, if we just go straight into how this picks up in a relationship, if you're not yourself, if you're not being yourself, if you're not being true to yourself, because, you read some blog or you read this or that, this is how a woman should be on the first, second date, this is how a man should be on the first, second date, and you're bringing in all this mind stuff and bringing in all these tactics, and you're not pure, the foundation of this friendship, the foundation of this date is going to be off kilter. It's not going to be right. Because you're sitting here, if you're a guy, I know some guys that get into this alpha male thing and they believe that they shouldn't talk as much, they should be a little quieter, all these things, and they're closing up their heart. Because if you're a jovial, exuberant kind of person, you should just be a jovial, exuberant kind of person, and the right person will see the beauty and the art and the uniqueness in that. So, in terms of sex magic, look, if you don't feel comfortable being yourself in your relationship, either you got to sever it, or you got to really go to your partner and you got to say, hey, you know what? I've been listening to this podcast. It's called the Sex Magic Podcast. And I realized that I haven't been real. I realized I have some tendencies in me that are not true to me. And I want to communicate some of those things to you. And I want to begin the process of you getting to know the real me. And even saying to them and being vulnerable and saying, I haven't been a real me because I was scared that you wouldn't like me. I was scared of acceptance. And talk about your acceptance issues. Talk about your fear issues. These are the things that build intimacy. These are the things that are going to raise the energy and allow you to go on a really harmonious path. Now, some of us have been in situations where we have a partner that's constantly criticizing everything about us, our appearance, our attitudes, why we do certain things certain ways. And if we don't have deep self-acceptance and we're living in the identity trap, that fear is gonna really shoot down any other chance we have of achieving bliss energies. Same thing with society. One day we're going to talk about passion and work and all these things. The society tells us to go down a certain path, live a certain way. And we have all these ideas about marriage, about relationships, about career, about children, about this, about that, about this, about that, politics, all of it. And the thing about it is, a lot of us haven't really thought about what we really feel and what we really resonate towards, which ideas we really resonate towards. This is why I encourage people to read theology, read a lot of stuff so that you can have the mind maps to see which ideas resonate most with you, because the ideas that resonate with you are the ideas that are really meant for you. And that's how you begin to know who you are and what you stand for. By, or at least one way, is by expanding your mind maps. You can do that through reading, watching YouTube, traveling. Um, and that, I guess, gets us into what's your truth. What is truth? I mean, we're gonna record a separate episode for truth, but truth is experiential. Truth is abductive, right? So if you believe that in your dream you saw a fairy and the fairy told you, gave you some secret message, oh, that was a very real experience, to you. So you have to honor what happens in your life and how your experience really shapes who you are. And owning that experiential truth allows you to express your uniqueness and be you. For instance, I have an ocarina. I play an ocarina recreationally. I play Dance Dance Revolution recreationally, because these things are so pure and so connected to who I am at a soul level. I could not see my life without doing these nerdy, really weird things. So search for your weirdness, So remember to speak your truth. Remember that a partner that's for you, a partner that's on this ascended path, the sacred sexual path, is going to see it and is going to honor it and is going to think it's beautiful, even if they don't understand it. So that's really the first part of the identity trap. Really work on being you and investigate where you're not being you. This is going to be a theme throughout the podcast, throughout a lot of our episodes, but this is a foundational idea. The other thing is that people believe that you should think, believe, and do as they do, right? And the stronger they have a conviction about an idea, the less tolerance they have, the less patience they have. Especially when you're on this sacred spiritual path and you realize that you've been living a lie, you've been living out of alignment with yourself, and maybe you have to quit your job or end a relationship or pivot in some way, and somebody tells you you're not living in reality. What is reality? Sit with that. What is reality? Everybody's reality is subjective, is different. It's based upon their worldview that they've developed for years. That's reality. Reality is different. Like, we're all on this planet, but everybody's living in their own little world. And the sooner that you recognize that everybody's living in their own little world, the better. Because everybody is trying to do one thing, right? The reason why people have the beliefs that they have, strong beliefs that they have, is because at the end of the day, they believe that certain beliefs and certain behaviors and certain tendencies is going to yield them happiness. Whether or not that actually is the case, that is the foundation to why human beings act in the ways they act. They believe it's going to provide them with happiness or fulfillment. So know that everybody has a different worldview. That you should not impose on another person's worldview. And they shouldn't impose on yours either. Everybody is going to experience different things in this life, and their worldview is their culture, their socialization, their parents, their this, their that, their this, their that. You don't have to beat an idea into somebody's head. You can share that your experience has led you to the knowing that this, that, or the third. That's fine. But it's invasive when we begin to give unsolicited advice or think people should respond and do and act as we do. If you're in a relationship and somebody has very contrasting styles that you do, ask questions. Ask about context, right? If you love to travel, like you're the travel bug, and your partner's not a really big traveler to begin with, why would you try to force them to be as passionate as a traveler as you? Of course, maybe you do introduce it. Maybe you do mention the idea that you'd love to go on a trip with them. But notice that in each and every relationship, friendship, the concept of bandwidth, right? If somebody's a level 1 and you're a level 10, they probably don't have the bandwidth to get over level 4 or 5, right? Like, I know that I'm not the best in, I don't know, drawing, although some people in my life would beg to differ. I think I'm a 1 or 2 in drawing. I don't think that, like, I'm really about to be some crazy Da Vinci artist, fine artist, painter. Even with all my effort, I don't really think my bandwidth stretches that far. So you got to know your bandwidth, right? When you have disagreements with people, especially in your sacred connection. And gather context. See where they're at. See where you're at. Do your best to build a bridge. And if you can't build a bridge, ask how strong they feel about certain issues. But be vulnerable. That's the key. Like, you have to be vulnerable. Don't go into it with your mind, trying to get control. Your influence is going to come through your authenticity and your vulnerability and how things impact you and how things make you feel. When you can do that, people open up. People can empathize. Most people can empathize. And if there's not a solution, and you know that there's contrasting things, then you may have to consider adjusting. And you have to dig into your own values on how deeply you feel that you should be right in this situation. Okay? So, this is the identity trap, guys. I mean, this is so foundational for you. Once again, just know that in your sacred connection, you're called to be yourself. You're called to also honor and appreciate the process of the partner that you're in the sacred connection with. You don't have to accept everything or that they do or like everything that they do, but gathering context is critical. Knowing that they don't have to do as you do, say as you say, have the same tendencies as you is okay. Like, that's okay. There's bigger problems. Know that each person has a worldview. And know that if you're not yourself, you may not be ready. But this is why you're listening. So we can begin to take the steps. So I challenge you today. Think about one area of your life that you feel like you can love yourself better. That you feel that you're doing out of obligation. You feel like you're not speaking up. And we can work on that. We'll work on how to speak up if you're in a pattern that's disharmonious with you, that makes you feel not happy. We can work on that. So, once again, guys, thank you for listening to this episode of the Sex Magic Podcast, The Identity Trap. Once again, it's our mission to help you achieve states of oneness in self, sex, and life. This was a Becoming Magic episode, so stay tuned for the next. Should be just as great. Alrighty, take care.